All right, and we are live for another round, another episode of Success Sundays. I'm one of your coaches and mentors, Oscar Chavez,
And I'm Jacob Galea.
and we really look forward to hosting you tonight. We're going to talk about something that I've been hearing a lot from various different people. They're wanting to know, how can I make sure that the second half of the year is much more profitable, much more fruitful, much more even enjoyable than the first half of the year. Now, as you know, Jacob, we are done with the first half of the year. That's gone. That's done and dusted. And so it's an opportunity for people to look back at their goals and have a look at whether they actually achieve those goals. So, Jacob, what can we do in the second half of the year to make sure that it's stronger than ever?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think, Oscar, one of the main things, first of all, let's talk about the first 6 months of 2020. It feels like it's been 10 years in 6 months because we've had everything from bushfires to coronavirus to, global events on a scale that has never been like before. So I'm sure there's a lot of people watching this going, well, how did I hit my goals when all that stuff was going on? So I think for me, how to bounce back and how to have the best second half of 2020 is to realize how important and what a reflection piece is to say how you have to be diversified in life. And how that you just can't rely on one stream of income or one anchor client or just one thing. Because, Oscar, the thing is, if you want to bounce back, what COVID should have done for you, what the beginning of 2020 should have done for you, is made you realize that nothing lasts forever, and at an instant things are breakable, and anything can break at any moment. I know guys that I'm coaching that have been in business for 20 years, and it's been an unbreakable, bulletproof business, and Corona shot it to pieces. So if you really want to bounce back, you have to have, all those entrepreneurs that used to say, forget about a plan B, it distracts you from a plan A. I mean, that's ridiculous now. But those quotes are now yesterday.
I
It's
love
like
it.
you need a plan A, B, C, and D, because we've seen and everybody's seen is that it's not what it used to be. I mean, some businesses got out unscathed, very little, but a few did. Technology businesses, few others. For those of them that did, they're the one percenters. But Oscar, what about you? Talk to us about bouncing back in the remainder of 2020.
I love the way you think, because you've been thinking along the same lines that I've been thinking. Just this week, I was thinking to myself, even the gravy train has to stop for routine maintenance, right? So sometimes we can get so disillusioned with what we're doing. It can be bringing in the bills, or it can be, like you said, the anchor client, the money's coming in. But sometimes when you get on the gravy train, all you want to do is kick back and relax, and you want to take in the sunshine, and you think, I'm comfortable here. And people have this ideology of retirement, that's what retirement is, right? They kick back and they relax. But the truth is that if we do that, we put all our eggs in one basket, and it leads to additional risk. And like you said as well, you've got to have the A, B, and C plan. I feel like in this industry, we glorify so much the entrepreneur who goes out there and risks everything and sees the day and takes the battle and all those kinds of things. And like you said, they glorify, don't do the plan B, right? Just plan A, that's all you've got. But what if plan A is wrong? What if something else happens, like coronavirus or some sort of thing outside of our control? Because those things always happen. So you're right, Jacob. It's like the first part of the year was almost the wake up call. So if people have missed that wake up call, then now we're in the second half of the year, and now's the opportunity to take that wake up call. And I think people need to sit down and plan. That's something I've been doing so much. Even today, I spent 4 hours planning. I said to myself, what have I not been measuring that I need to start measuring? What do I need? What other KPIs do I need to put on myself in order to make myself perform at that next level?
Yeah.
And I went through that process, right? I go through a weekly planning process, and not everybody does that. They get to the weekend, they just want to relax, they want to hang out because that's, what culture or what society tells you need to do. Whereas I'm like, no, this is the opportunity for me to plan and prepare the week. That's why we do these Success Sundays.
Yeah.
Help people plan and prepare for the week. But it's almost like going back to the drawing board and drawing a line in the sand and saying, well, the past is the past, and let that be. But now we're going to move towards the future. So there's some of the things that I think that people need to do. What are some of the things that you think, Jacob, people need to be doing in order to plan more effectively, or where should their focus be for the next half?
Yeah, look, I think I read this awesome thing this week in the Financial Review that said that the second half of the year is not about profiteering. It's about maintaining brands and maintaining reputation. So, there's a lot of, I mean, look, a new financial year. So you talk about the second half of the year, but we're also starting a new financial year. But if we're talking calendar year, what's really, really important here is it's probably not going to be about profitability after COVID-19. Let's face it, right? We always talk about profit, but there's sometimes when in a business you just need to be stable, and what you need to do is just rebuild and get that bottom line healthy again. So I think profitability is really important, but your reputation and just keeping your doors open and being diversified in business. Like, it's really important. Like I said, there's a lot of entrepreneurs listening to a lot of people out there that haven't really done much in their life, haven't really, worked with amazing people. Like, be careful who you take advice from, because, one of the things that they should do is don't have a great coach or mentor, get one, because what you should be doing is looking all options in business today. That there is a new horizon out there for the entrepreneurs of tomorrow. It's not like the old guys that used to exist. It's very different now. So you've got to move different. It's almost like a rebirth of entrepreneurs. So if you want to be successful in the second half, you got to think, but what if this thing doesn't work out? What if this thing doesn't make money? What if this thing doesn't make it? What are my options? Because then you become a strategist. Then you've got some strategies with some different options. For me, and it's why I'm diversified, is so powerful. You got to be a little bit in property, a little bit in shares, a little bit in, I love investing in businesses, because if you're investing in 10 different businesses and you're getting $100,000 dividend from each business, that's $1 million a year in dividends from those businesses, right? But
Yeah.
if 5 of those businesses don't do well, you still got $100,000 times 5 coming in from the other 5, right?
Yeah.
So you've really got a risk analysis what you're doing, and is it going to be successful?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is, right? Like you said, it is about being diversified. But the thing that people need to realize is that diversity takes effort. We don't live in times where you can just go to work and do your 9 to 5 and then kick back in the afternoon and just chill out and watch Netflix. We live in a time where it's really important and critical that we carve out to focus on building our dreams, building our goals, making our visions come to reality. Because if we don't do that, then we'll be at the whim of whatever the economy does. And the economy does this every 10 years, right? At least every 10 to 15 years, there's going to be some major thing that changes. We had the global financial crisis. We've had COVID. We've had wars. We've had instability. We've had banks, the Great Depression. There's been so many different things that come along, and we live a long time. People underestimate how long it is that we live. We're going to live through this again. And so this is the opportunity to do things differently than the way we've done them before, because the way that we've done them before will not continue to work in the future. So we need to diversify.
Absolutely.
And you're right, Jacob. Everybody needs a coach. I love that Michael Jordan documentary that was just released, and it shows you the power of coaching, right? Phil Jackson can take the Chicago Bulls and he can take the LA Lakers to the finals, right?
Yeah.
That's the power of having someone that is a bit more cerebral, that thinks a bit more strategically, that understands the game. He's not the player in the game, but he understands the game, right? And that's the value of a coach, right? How do we play the game better, Jacob? What's the game of business all about?
Yeah, look for me. I want to talk about again the topic of tonight, bouncing back 2020. For me, the game for this second half of the year, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of businessmen, businesswomen have carried a lot of stress in the first half of 2020. Okay, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So I'm advising a lot of my guys now that the second half of 2020 is that you can't keep building stress. You have to release it. So
yes.
a lot of my guys, we're going to do a retreat at the Golden Door in the Hunter Valley. I'm going to take a CEO client of mine, a couple of other guys up to Byron Bay. We're going to do some meditation and yoga. My thing is for the back end of 2020, because the first end was very, very heavy, is to invest in your health. And for me, health is wealth, right? So, train harder with your personal trainer, go and do yoga, go and do meditation, go and do Tai Chi. So I'm saying to my guys, focus on your health so that when January 2021 comes, you are ready to go really hard for another calendar year, fresh and healthy. Otherwise, we're going to see of sick executives run down and really hurt for no reason. So for me, look, the second half of 2020 for a lot of people is, yes, look, you've got to focus about profitability, but don't make it your number one. Make it about your reputation, your business sustainability, and your health for me, Oscar.
Yeah, it is about maintenance, right? It not only do we have to always find ways to move faster and do more, but it like you said, you've got to stabilize the base. If you don't stabilize the base, then it's not a foundation for growth. You've got to have the operational stability in the business, is what I call it. Operational stability is the most powerful thing because it leads to repeat business. These customers that you have and you're operationally stable and you're moving in sync with your customers, they're customers that could be with you for 20 years. But if you don't do the operational hygiene, then those customers leave you and they go to the next best thing. They go to the person that's innovating even more over there. They go to one of the niche players that's doing something differently than what you're doing. So it's so critical, like you said, to manage the base, to get that operational stability and the operational hygiene. And for me, one of the things that is one of my mantras is, give me the ability to handle more stress, because the more I do in my life, the more stress it adds on top of my shoulders. The more businesses you run and the more cash flow you've got to manage, it's just more stress, right?
Yeah.
But we need to develop ways to manage that stress, because if not, then like you said, we get the entrepreneurial burnout, and mental health is a crisis that not everybody talks about. But I think it's a real thing that we need to be cognizant of, that if we don't take remedy of our health, our mental health, create that space to develop a relationship with ourselves and have honest dialogue within ourselves, then we've got no hope, right? There's not going to be a plan B or plan C or plan D, because you're going to burn out on plan A. So we need
to... Oscar, what makes me say that as well is I heard a story this week from a very good friend of mine in Brisbane, and a 55-year-old client of his, very wealthy, extremely wealthy, big business, big turnover, huge businessman in the Brisbane Business Chamber of Commerce, and this guy was really well known. And at 55 years old, last week, he had aneurysm and died just on the spot. And I think these stories of bouncing back doesn't mean, to just go like an animal for the next 6 months and eat your own flesh. It's like, hang on a second, let's make sure your head space and your heart space is connected. Let's make sure that, you get some sun, some vitamin D. Let's make sure that, you go out to a health retreat. Let's make sure that your operating rhythm is the strongest it can be. And then you can last, you can fulfill your needs, not just, build this empire and then tomorrow something happens and you have a heart attack and die. That's not what we're in business for, right? You've got to enjoy life. And I think there's a big message in there for watching this.
I love that. And I've actually just lost your audio for a bit. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I can hear you again now. Can you repeat that last bit a little bit for me to hear?
Yeah, I was just saying, I think it's important that for the second half of the year, people want to bounce back is off, right? Bounce back in your health, make sure your head space and your heart space are connected, and really make sure that you're looking after the 4 major shareholders in you. So 25% major shareholder in you is the emotional side of you. Next shareholder of you is the mental side of you. Shareholder of you is the spiritual side of you. And then the last one is the physical side of you. So for me, they're your 4 major shareholders in what I call Me Proprietary Limited: the physical, the mental, the spiritual, and emotional side of you. And for me, bouncing back is about recharging those things so that you can have a better, stronger you to run your corporation and your people and your family.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you reference that, because you really show us all that it is about those foundations of long-term performance. Because, one of the things that I say all the time is that it's not about spikes in performance and getting, a spike of cash flow or a one-time revenue. That's all really good stuff. But what we want is to be able to maintain and sustain over a long period of time. And if we don't do what you said in terms of looking after the 4 major shareholders of who we are, then we can't do that over a long term. And it's sad to hear, of your acquaintance or your friend in Brisbane that had an issue with the aneurysm. I mean, but this is the reality. If people don't look after their mental health and they don't take the time and create the space to enjoy the moments, right? If we don't feel successful today, then we're not successful. You've got to feel successful. You have to feel the success. You've got to be grateful for the small things. Otherwise, you can never get to where you're trying to get to. So look, this is, this is all we have time for today, Jacob. Is there anything that you wanted to close on today?
Oh, look, bounce back in 2020. Health is wealth. For me tonight, guys, it's all about health. Make sure that you're a stronger version of you. You're a wiser. Do a lot of reading. Do a lot of meditation. Do a lot of connectedness. Be around amazing people. For me, make sure that foundation and the base of you and those 4 shareholders are looked after for the rest of 2020.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
What about you, Oscar? Final words?
Final words. They're so final, aren't they? The last ones are so critical. But for me, bounce back to 2020. It is create a plan that would incorporate those 4 areas that you said. The spiritual well-being. For me, spiritual well-being is the movement of, or your behavior is in alignment with the values that you've set. For me, that's spirituality, right? If you say to yourself that you're going to do something and you don't do it, then you're going to feel out of spiritual alignment. And it goes all the way up to whatever people believe in terms of, existential and the universe and God and all these things, right? But at a very base level, it's do what you say you're going to do. For me, that's part of the base of spirituality. The health, right? Take the time to meditate, clear the mind. We all suffer from negative emotion. It is part of life. And so what we need to do is find ways to deal with that negative emotion and offset it with positive emotion. We've got to choose our positive emotions. Otherwise, we stay in our negative emotion too long, and we react to those environments in order to feel better about ourselves. But maybe the coping mechanisms we're developing along the way through habituation are self-destructive. So we can't do it like that. So my advice for everyone would be to incorporate a plan or build a plan that incorporates all of those 4 elements that Jacob said, and that way you can have long-term success. Everyone, thank you very much for dialing in, and we'll see you again next week.
See you guys. See you next week.
Thanks, everyone.